Cardinal Pvos an American?
Congrats to Mr. Pvos. Yeah. We did it!
Wow.
USA! USA!
The Catholics have a new pope. Robert Francis Pvos, now known as Pope Leo XIV, was selected last week, and I really truly believe it is the best thing that could have happened to Catholicism in America because it generated just this fanatical excitement. I think it kind of speaks to Americans' instinctive national pride. I also think it speaks to a growing interest in traditional religion, traditional cultural elements that bring people together. So let's talk about it. On May 8th, after roughly a day and a half of voting, the College of Cardinals selected the new pope. He's going by the name Leo XIV, which is pretty traditional, but he is the cardinal formerly known as Robert Francis Pvos. Pvos is a dual American and Peruvian citizen. He was born in Chicago. It's rallying a lot of Chicagoan pride. There are some really funny interviews with his brothers who were debunking rumors that he was a Cubs fan. But he is also a Peruvian citizen. He did missionary work in Peru for 20 years. The Peruvian president also celebrated, saying, we have a Peruvian pope, but by and large, he is being hailed as the first American pope. Now, most commenters, especially Catholic experts and Catholic priests who had interviewed, talked about the fact that it was unlikely that there would be an American pope because of some historic ties, but also because of some geopolitical reasons. Take a look at this clip.
Take that question up right now for the moment as we see an American cardinal on screen. Why is it so unlikely, we are told, that there will be an American pope?
Well, because first of all, this began as a logistical problem. In the days when you had to travel to Rome by steamship, it was very difficult for Americans to get here on time and certainly to be part of any of the pre-conclave politics. Then later it became a geopolitical issue. That is, it was considered impossible that you could have a superpower pope.
But
that's no longer true.
But in Cardinal Pvos, born in Chicago, went to Villanova, spent many years in Peru, his star has been rising, correct?
It has, because he's seen as a great missionary to begin with, because he did spend most of his career outside the United States. You know what the Italians say? He is il meno americano tra gli americani. He's the least American among the Americans, which in their book is a very positive thing.
Now, as conclave drew closer following the death of Pope Francis, there were a lot of names thrown around, and it was often talked about like this sort of war between the political fractions, which in some ways a lot of theology is influenced by growing cultural political changes. It was this, would it be a more progressive, as Pope Francis views? Would it be a more traditional conservative? And then you got a wave of, I think, Catholic commenters reminding people that this is a religious decision, that the cardinals who vote are vowing to be guided by the Holy Spirit in their decision making. So it's instinctively, I think people want to view it the way we look at political races. They want to look at the betting odds. They want to look at, the comments and the facts. They want to see, well, who has Pope Francis named as cardinal, and will that influence the decision? Has he endorsed someone? Does he have a successor? But there is this intrinsic religious, spiritual component to this selection that I don't think you can always comprehend, especially if you're not a Catholic person. But Pvos' name came up every once in a while, but it was really closer to actual conclave. He wasn't someone I saw regularly mentioned before then. And this is something that Catholic observers and Catholic religious leaders noted.
Asked me about, do you know this Roberto Pvos? And I said, who? And they said, well, he's an American. He's been out of the United States most of his life. He was a magnificently effective, so I hear, missionary to the poorest areas of Peru for about 30 years. He's worked here at the Holy See, at the Vatican, for quite a while. So we really didn't consider him a cardinal from the United States. Heck, when I was with you guys before the conclave and you were asking me about the American cardinals, we didn't mention him, remember?
I remember.
We kind of didn't think of him that way. So while I wasn't surprised at the outcome of the election, I have to be honest with you, I was very surprised about the intense interest in him.
The international communities looked at Pvos like he was basically not American. They said he was the least American, and that's why Italians liked him. But the thing is, the second he walked out on that balcony, And you could hear it in every video reacting to it. People were like, American Pope, we don't care that he lived in Peru. We don't care that he only addressed the crowd in Latin, Italian, and Spanish. He's an American Pope. And it is sort of this, I don't want to say victory because it's not a competition, but it definitely has the air of a win for Americans. And you would see it in all of the videos. There are videos of priests reacting to the news.
I was going to say his first name, then
Eminentissimum, ac reverendissimum Dominum.
First name.
Dominum Robertum Franciscum, Sancte Romane Ecclesiae, Cardinalem Pvos.
Oh my God, that's an American Pope!
There are also videos of students at Catholic schools reacting to the news. I like this one because they hear the news and break out into chants of USA, which I basically only heard in college at like football games.
Leo the 14th, it's Cardinal Pvos, he's American.
Or at this school, the students are listening. Obviously, they're being addressed in a language other than English when they're watching the video. And you can see the excitement on the priest's face. They stand up, they get excited, they turn to the crowd, they're like, it's an American.
Gaudium Magnum. Habemus Papam. Eminentissimum, ac reverendissimum Dominum. Dominum Robertum Franciscum, Sancte Romane Ecclesiae, Cardinalem Pvos.
Oh, American. He's an American. He's American.
I mean, if you look at this clip, the way these Catholic schoolboys are celebrating, it's like a Super Bowl win, or it's like some fantastic victory. Even these professional commenters from Busted Halo look like they are shocked and excited. It's not a competition, but for Americans, it is a little bit.
Annuncio vobis Gaudium Magnum.
We announce with great joy.
Habemus Papam.
We have a pope. We do.
Eminentissimum, ac reverendissimum Dominum. Dominum Robertum Franciscum, Sancte Romane Ecclesiae, Cardinalem Pvos.
An American pope.
Qui sibi nomen imposuit Leonem XIV.
Leo the 14th? Cardinal Pvos, an American? They said we would never have an American pope. Oh my gosh. A Chicago-born priest, spent most of his time in ministry in Peru, a veteran in the Vatican, and we have a pope, and the crowd is now going...
Crowd is stunned.
Who? I thought the crowd was stunned in 2013 when they elected Cardinal Bergoglio.
First time in the history of Catholicism. I believe what we are waiting on right now is for an American lad to walk out to a window and say, it's me, I'm your next P-O-P-E. Congrats to Mr. Pvos. Yeah. We did it. Wow. USA, 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 USA. Holy shit, man. There he is. right? That's the American Pope, first time ever.
And I think from there, you saw this lore around Pope Leo XIV develop. There was obviously a hunt in Chicago to figure out who his sports teams were. I saw a clip, I'll see if I can find it, from a reporter at the Chicago Tribune who said when they realized it was an American who was from Chicago, they sprung into action. Their newsroom was all hands on deck, and they were able to track down a photo of, I guess he was, he wasn't a cardinal then, so Father Robert Francis Pvos at the World Series supporting the White Sox. You also saw people get excited about his childhood home, which had recently been purchased, remodeled, and listed on the market to be sold. And now I guess it's been taken off market. People are going there with like a pilgrimage. And then people found out that he went to Villanova, which is obviously outside of Philadelphia. I saw a video, and I'll see if I can track it down, of someone saying, this Pope has been to Wawa, the gas station food chain that's popular in that region. They want to know what his order is. I mean, to have this American Pope who has all these local ties, these places that other people are like, I too have been to Wawa. I too am from this area of Chicago. Again, heightened when people realize that his family has roots in New Orleans and that he actually seems to be Creole. There was sort of this claim. It's not just that he is the American Pope. It's not that he's a Chicagoan Pope, but he is possibly also a New Orleans Pope. Chicago and New Orleans are both major Catholic majority cities where they have intense Catholic ties in their development. He feels in some ways like everybody's hometown Pope, and Americans love that. It's fascinating to see it come out.
This is the new Pope's grandparents' marriage record. Louise Baquet and Joseph Martinez were married in 1887. He had immigrated to New Orleans from Haiti during childhood. Louise had grown up in the 7th Ward. You can see it up here. This is her family on the 1870 census and the 1880 census. This is the 1900 census, so just a few years after Joseph and Louise were married, and they were living in a home on Prior Street with 2 daughters. This home was torn down to build the Claiborne Overpass. By 1910, their family had really grown. They had a house full of daughters. They were living in a place on South Peter Street in the French Quarter at this time, and shortly after this 1910 census was taken, they would move the whole family from New Orleans to Chicago, and they would have another little girl. Her name was Mildred, and one day she would become the mother of the now Pope Leo XIV.
Catholicism, of course, is a dominant religion in America. According to one study in 2023, 33% of Americans identified as Protestant, 22% identified as Catholic, and 22% identified as not religious. So of the religious affiliations, it is the second largest, if not tied for the second largest. I find it fascinating that means that a lot of people, even if they are not Catholic, even if they were not brought up Catholic, have some kind of cultural tie to an element of Catholicism in our country. Either they know a Catholic, they have a friend who's Catholic, their grandparents might be Catholic, or they were raised in an area where Catholicism was dominant. I remember being in my high school freshman English class, and I grew up Episcopalian, and I was one of, I think, 3 non-Catholic people in this classroom of like 20 kids. It was fascinating. Overall, I think Catholicism is on the rise. You see a lot of reporting about an interest among young Catholics or young Catholic converts in more traditional views of Catholicism, adopting things like veiling or wanting to go to Latin Mass. And I've also read studies that of the people who are going to seminary, of the young seminarians, they are more likely than ever to be both theologically and politically conservative. So there is a growing interest not only in the faith, but also in a specific interpretation of it. It seems like the progressive element that some people feared, some people wanted, is not dominant in the generations that are coming up in Catholicism in America. According to the Pew Research Center, Catholicism is also evenly spread out across the country. And remember, America is a huge country, especially when compared to Europe and other nations. They say roughly 3 in 10 or 29% of Catholics in America live in the South, while 26% live in the Northeast, 25% the West, and 20% the Midwest. So there is roughly a quarter of the population in every part of the country that identifies as Catholic. It means that, again, when we get this Pope from America, even though America is a huge nation, given his family history, where he was born, and his educational background, he really has these ties across the country. And I think Americans like having someone who they relate to. I mean, it's why you often hear in American politics, like, oh, I could get a beer with that guy. I don't know that it's always the most helpful barometer, but in this case, especially for a religion that needs people to pursue it to grow, it is interesting that they have a world superpower, a Catholic Pope, who also is a missionary. So there's almost something on every level to relate to about this guy. We'll see what he's like as a Pope. We'll see what his background is. I think people are really quick to try and say he's a woke Pope, he's conservative, he's whatever. You have to see what happens. Again, I think unlike politics, there is something different when we're talking about people who are led by religion. Of course, there's power involved. Of course, there's influence and attention on an international stage that can change how people live their lives. But it's slightly different than when we're electing politicians. Anyways, I just wanted to bring you some of these reactions because I thought they were so funny. What do you think? Do you think that Americans are now open to Catholicism in a way they weren't before because we have the first American Pope? Are you excited about, I see him affectionately referred to sometimes as Pope Bob, but I'm going to stick with Pope Leo XIV. And did watching Conclave and the selection of new Pope make you, a non-Catholic, more interested in Catholicism? Because I think that is what was also fascinating. How many people who did not care about religion kept an eye on this. Like it was, I mean, it really was taking place on a global stage because there are 1 billion Catholics around the world. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Did you have any other reactions that I missed online that you think I should see? Leave me a comment. Thanks so much for your support. If you have liked this video, please subscribe to the channel. You can also follow me. I have some links in my little description. And if there's anything else you want me to do a video on, let me know. Thanks.